What's going on in the crypto market today? There's been a lot of volatility over the past few weeks, and I'd like to summarize all of that and kind of look at where we are now and where we might be going in the future. This is Crypto Simulation Theory. I am the Gaussian Snick, and I would like to invite you to my Telegram group, the Snick Pit, which is free. We have daily market updates and a very supportive community over there, so be sure to sign up using the link in the video description. Nothing I talk about, of course, is financial advice. You should always do your own research. This is a graph of crypto total market cap, which includes Bitcoin, Ethereum, all the altcoins, just everything, stable coins. And we're currently sitting at a valuation of $2.543 trillion. Now, you'll notice that crypto total market cap has reached the plus 1.5 standard deviation line. This is the median line in the middle when you count 0.5, 1.5 in past cycles 3 times. So there's really no reason to believe that it can't happen again. If it were to happen again, I guess it would depend on when the cycle ends. If we go with the standard sort of 4-year cycle theory and we assume that we can get back up to this line and kind of extend this out maybe into 2025, we could see a crypto market cap valuation somewhere around, let's just say, 5 to 7.2 or 7.3 trillion dollars, which is about a 2 to 3x from where we are sitting right now. And I think some of that move will come off of Bitcoin, but a lot of it will also probably come off of altcoin and Ethereum movement as well. Speaking of Bitcoin, we have seen quite a move out of it today, so let's look at that right now. I've got my beautiful log regression rainbow. It's a blue rainbow. I don't know how to make these colors different. So, we've looked at this before in past videos. Again, this is in increments of 0.5 from the orange median line. We've really been spending quite a bit of time around the 0.5, and it looks like we're ready to head upwards. Now, we haven't determined yet if this move, can be sustained or not. We don't know that yet. That's something, of course, that the jury's still out on. But I think it's completely reasonable to expect that we could, at the very least, make it to the 1 standard deviation band, and even, possibly to the 1.5. I don't think we'll make it to the 2, but anything, of course, is possible. What prices would that correspond to would depend on how long this cycle goes for. A lot of people are thinking we're heading into 2025 with the bull cycle, and they could very well be right. I'm certainly open-minded to that idea, especially with all the bullish news coming out lately. So let's say that we were to go to like October of 2025, you would be looking at a Bitcoin valuation potentially at the 1.5, that would be about 185K. If we somehow made it to the 2, you're looking at about 250K. So yeah, I mean, it is certainly possible for Bitcoin to hit those really high valuations. It just depends on how much juice this move has in it. So that's kind of like looking a little bit further out. What I'd like to do now is kind of look a little bit further in and see what some of the daily and weekly behavior looks like for Bitcoin, and kind of like determine if this price level we're at right now, which is around 71,000, is sustainable. Is this the beginning of another leg higher? Are we going parabolic once again to a new high, or is this perhaps a fake out and we're going to head back down? That's what I'd like to analyze. So on the weekly time frame, just looking at the Gaussian channel, it is green, concave up, and narrow. That is extremely bullish. We have tested the median line of the Gaussian channel. We tested it a little bit more than we did last time in the earlier part of the year, and that's okay because we held and we're heading back up right now. This does not look bearish to me. This looks bullish, but there's a lot more to this picture than just Bollinger Bands and a Gaussian channel. But this does look bullish at first glance. So let's dive in a little bit deeper and look at some key moving averages. So we have a bit of an interesting situation on the weekly time frame. Because of all this downward price movement, the 20-week HMA, or whole moving average, which is less lagging than a simple moving average. I don't really use SMAs anymore. I use HMAs. This is the 50-week HMA. This is the 100-week HMA in white, and this is the 200-week HMA in red. So we have a death cross of the 20-week HMA with the 50, but then we have price moving up. So, and you can already see that this yellow moving average is starting to inflect, meaning that it is very likely to resolve in a golden cross, especially if this weekly momentum remains bullish, which you know, certainly looking at this, we've got all our moving averages stacked up on top of each other. No reason to believe that this yellow is going to come all the way down or anything like that. We probably are going to see something like this, a curl up. Again, this does look quite bullish to me on the weekly time frame, but we should probably dig deeper and look into the daily time frame to kind of see on a day-to-day basis what to expect. So on the daily time frame, things are a little less certain, but let's face it, we've got an inverse head and shoulders right here, which is just one of the most bullish patterns you can possibly have, and it is playing out. So we rocketed through all of our HMAs. We've got a golden cross of the 50-day with the 100-day. We've already had a golden cross of the 20-day. Everything's heading up the way you would want it to, and all we're waiting for now is a golden cross of the 200-day HMA, which is kind of stuck around where our price currently is at. It is providing resistance for price, which is not necessarily a bad thing. We certainly don't expect price to go through it at, you know, all at once, but it's nice to see we're not getting any major rejections here. So we're tapping up against it. That's perfectly normal and expected. What about the Gaussian channel? On the, you know, this is something, if you've been following me on Telegram or Twitter, I've been talking a lot about. The Gaussian channel did turn red, but we have just sliced through the entire thing. So what is very likely to happen soon is you're going to see this median line, which is currently concave down, probably flip concave up. And in the process of that happening, we're shaking off some of this bearish momentum. We may see Bitcoin spend a little bit of time kind of testing the previous all-time high. Hard to say exactly what's going to occur, but you know, this 20 is up very parabolically almost. The 50 is catching up with it, 100's curling up. So bullish price action is kind of my base case. When you slice through a Gaussian this convincingly, you know, just like we sliced through it going down and now you're slicing through it going up, that is showing some serious strength. To be able to do that, you usually don't peak above the red Gaussian and then just come right back down. This typically is a trend reversal that is going to be sustained. That is the most likely outcome. Another thing to pay attention to is that the Gunnar exponential moving average, or the Gunnar EMA, last printed a bullish cross on September of last year, and we have not printed a bearish cross since. In fact, the last bearish cross that we had, you'd have to go back quite a ways to find. Well, I guess maybe right here in September was our bearish cross, but in terms of like a substantial bearish cross, that has not happened since January of 2022. So as you can see in past cycles, when you have a lot of distance between the Gunnar EMA bands, you're generally looking pretty bullish, right? Bullish is more likely than bearish. This is again on the weekly time frame. And that's exactly what's happening here, is we're getting more and more distance between the Gunnar EMA bands, and we're holding them as support. We held the red one as support this time. Last time we held the green one as support, and we're already above both. So that's bullish. That's just flat out bullish. What does the daily look like? Well, if we flip over to the daily, you know, the Gunnar EMAs, we just had a bullish cross right here on May 17th. So probability is for more upside, right? The last bearish cross was all the way back in April, and you certainly on a daily time frame can have more of these crosses, but they don't occur super often. So again, point for the bulls. Congratulations, this looks good. Speaking of looking good, wow, what a move out of Ethereum today. So Ethereum's Gaussian was also red. It spent a little bit more time below it until today. So if you were to take a measured move, just to see how astounding, I mean, this candle was freaking insane, and we're up again today. 22% move out of Ethereum. And when was the last time something like that even happened? You'd have to go back quite a ways. I mean, I'm not going to bother. This is on a daily time frame. That is very bullish. I mean, I don't even need to pull up other metrics. You can just tell, right? I will anyways. I mean, I'll pull up the weighted logarithmic Bollinger Band and break to the upside, right? Falling wedge, break to the upside. So it looks to me like Ethereum probably has bottomed. This is a pretty convincing bottoming structure, and its Gaussian's probably going to inflect, and I think Ethereum is very likely to put in a new all-time high within the next probably few weeks to months. Sooner rather than later, I would say. This does not look like a fake out to me. This looks like a breakout. So let's flip on some of the HMAs and see kind of like what those look like. So if we take off the Gaussian channel, flip on a few HMAs, you know, wow, that's so impressive. We have, look at this, like 2 golden crosses at once, and these things are going straight up. We have not, I mean, we have not just gone above the 200-day HMA, we have blasted through it. So this is impressive. This could be the start of altcoin season because of this move. We might actually see the bottom for ETH Bitcoin, which I'm going to look at next. I normally don't spend a lot of time looking at ETH USD. I will start looking at it more often if I feel like we're in Ethereum season, and I think today may have marked the beginning of that. So we are all the way at $3,700. I mean, up from just around $3,000 not that long ago. So I think $3,000 is going to be quite a difficult target to get below in the future for Ethereum. I think it's this kind of rhymes a little bit with Bitcoin back in the previous cycle, right? It was like down at, the 3,000-ish range, and then it just shot up like crazy after that. So, yeah, I mean, things look really good on the daily. What if we go look at the weekly for Ethereum, and we can see same thing. I mean, what an impressive candle. That is such an impressive candle. We didn't even have a candle like that before, so we must notice that. We must take note of that. Ethereum is above everything. It's above all of its key moving averages. It successfully held the 100-week HMA as support, an impressive feat. Let's turn on the Gunnar EMA. Let's see what that is saying. I'll turn off the HMAs while I do that. So the Gunnar EMA is saying that we are still bullish, very much in a bull market. Now, we tested the hell out of that red Gunnar EMA line, and it almost looked like it wasn't going to hold, and we might have gotten a bearish cross. That did not happen. With this move, you can expect the distance to increase. I mean, we had our first bullish cross on the Gunnar EMA in November. We had a bearish cross in August that didn't last for very long. And, here we are just, on the weekly, these crosses don't happen that often. I anticipate that we are going to be moving in a very bullish direction. So what about ETH Bitcoin? Let's look at that next. Well, so ETH Bitcoin's a bit frustrating, right? Even with this massive upside move out of ETH USD, we are still just making a lower high until proven otherwise. It is possible. I want to at least acknowledge that 0.045 Bitcoin could be the bottom for ETH Bitcoin. We have to at least acknowledge that. I drew this red zone between 0.03 and 0.04, but it may not get hit. My base case is that it will, but it might not, right? There's no guarantees at all that will happen. So, I mean, ETH Bitcoin has been bleeding for a very long time. It's gotten outside of this long-term support. I think we might be coming up to retest it. That's possible. If this move is sustained by Ethereum, and this is a pretty massive move, even for ETH Bitcoin. As you can see today, Ethereum dramatically outperformed Bitcoin. When you start seeing moves like this, I mean, it has happened before. It happened in January. We need to see follow through. If we just see this roll back over, then, I think my base case is bottoming still in the red zone. I'm just open-minded to maybe bottoming somewhere else. The reason why I think the red zone is the most likely target, though, has to do with the VRVP, visible range volume profile. So if I, sort of zoom out a little bit here, maybe to right here, and I turn on the VRVP, actually I think I already have it in here, you can see that where we're at right now, there's really not a lot of volume support. We did come up to an area where there is more volume support. We spent a lot of time at 0.05. This acted as support for the longest time, and now we're sort of back testing it, and it is kind of giving us a little bit of resistance right here. This is our area of most major volume support. So there's nothing here but air, right? I mean, you just have nothing but air all the way down. So that's why I sort of, if you look at ETH Bitcoin over a longer time frame, right, if you were to pull back its entire history, you would see kind of what I'm talking about, even more. So let's see if I can just get the whole thing on the chart here. This is like the entire history of ETH Bitcoin. You can see we're kind of in an area of very weak volume support, but the rock solid volume support is at 0.04. Now, so I still think we're going to hit this level. I'm not sure how we're going to hit it, but I think we're going to hit it. It could be on a massive Bitcoin breakout where Bitcoin just goes parabolic past 100K or past 90K or whatever. That is certainly possible, and maybe Ethereum doesn't keep up on the initial move, and it just taps this region. It doesn't have to like spend time in this region. It could just tap the top of it, and maybe that's it. Well, it's possible that this is it. This is the bottom where we're at right now. We must consider all possibilities. So, I'm not convinced that the bottom is in for ETH Bitcoin, but I'm more convinced of it than I certainly was before. Or I should say, more open to the idea. Bitcoin dominance looks like it's just ready to roll over. It looks like it's been in a massive distribution phase on the weekly. This is not parabolic strength. This, to me, actually looks kind of weak. You know, so it's been in this like trend of just barely clinging on for dear life. It'll have these impulsive moves up every once in a while. It went down today. It went down. Now on the VRVP, you can see we're in an area of pretty strong volume support, you know, between 50.96 and maybe 57. You know, that's kind of been an area of relatively, you know, strong support. The next area of big support is around 48, and then below that is around 43. I expect Bitcoin dominance to actually get down to this level, and possibly even lower eventually. So I am expecting at least a minor shakeout from dominance. It tested the red Gunner EMA back here. We zoom in a little bit. You can see that. Whoops, I'm drawing random lines. Let me take off that drawing tool. So yeah, if we zoom in here, you can see that it hasn't really been holding up that well. It did test this red Gunner EMA, and it's just hobbling along. It really doesn't look that impressive. In fact, we may even be developing a bearish engulfing candle on the weekly for dominance. Yet another sign that altcoin season could be starting now. Well, I'm going to turn off the VRVP. It's getting a little distracting. Let's turn that off. But I think that there's a decent chance that we are at the beginning of an altcoin season. And this is something I've said in my Telegram group a few days ago, based on what I saw happening with Link Bitcoin, because Chainlink last time kind of led off the altcoin season in the last cycle, but it doesn't mean it has to again. I mean, we've seen Near Protocol kind of, you know, show a lot of strength against Bitcoin, more so than Chainlink, but there's a little bit of confirmation bias from me there, probably. Yeah, I think we'll look at Link Bitcoin next. But yeah, look at this. We've got a bearish engulfing candle forming on the weekly. Now, it's not guaranteed to close this way, but if it does, you know, continue to drop, that's another bearish sign for Bitcoin dominance. Doesn't mean that the run by dominance is over. It may not be over. But yeah, I don't think it has a lot of gas left in the tank, to be honest with you. I just don't. Now, as a counter argument against an altcoin season starting, we do have to take note of this bearish cross by others' dominance. Not really what we want to see, and kind of disappointing, honestly, to see that. But we have to take note of it. So this is kind of where I start to wonder, has ETH Bitcoin really bottomed at 0.045? And I think to myself, probably not. Probably going to take another trip down. And I would love for it to happen on the back of a parabolic rally by Bitcoin. More on that later, because we're going to come back and revisit Bitcoin. But yeah, I don't, you know, if you look back at others' Bitcoin's or others' dominance history, these crosses don't happen very often. They're spaced out by quite a bit. So this is actually quite disappointing. We have a bullish cross August of 2023, May of 2024. Little more than half a year later, we are experiencing the very beginnings of a bearish cross. So that's not good. What I can pull up here is the Gaussian channel, and this is good news here. We do have some good news. Good news and bad news. Weighted logarithmic Bollinger Bands don't look good. Admittedly, just like the Gunner EMA doesn't look good. But having a green Gaussian channel is something that is a good sign. Just because we have a bearish cross on the Gunner does not mean that it's going to be sustained for very long. I have said in previous videos that my base case for altcoin season is late spring, early summer. And so I can kind of stand by that. You know, late spring to me is sometime around June, sort of getting deeper into June. Early summer to me is like, you know, late June, early mid-July. So I think that it is reasonable to think that we could potentially be in an altcoin season by then. I say that because the Gaussian channel is green and concave up, which is a bullish formation. But if you go into the past, you'll see that that doesn't mean that we're immune to drops. We've had some pretty nasty drops in the past. If you sort of, come over to here, I circled this earlier in my Telegram group, there was a bearish cross in November of 2020 followed by a bullish cross just 3 months later. So I think something like this is kind of likely to play out, if I had to guess. I don't imagine that altcoins are going to be losing dominance, for a year to come or anything like that, but I could definitely see an argument that altcoins might be weak through July against Bitcoin. Doesn't mean they can't go up in value and that we won't have some of them blast off, but that the true obviousness of an altcoin season beginning might not be apparent for another 3 months or so. And this is something I also said in my Telegram group. This M formation is a bearish formation. It's a double top, and it looks like we want to kind of go down a little bit more. And I think there's a pretty good chance that we at the very least tap this trend line. Maybe, we get others dominance of around 9.25% or something like that. I wouldn't say, we're not in September. I don't think it'll take that long. Let's say it happened in June. That's around 9. Okay, so around 9%. I think we just tap this and then maybe have a V-shaped recovery out of it. That would sort of be my base case. Something very rapid and to shake people out of altcoins. Again, whether that happens on a Bitcoin pump or dump, I don't know. But maybe Bitcoin pumps really aggressively and altcoins don't move much and people start to get bored with them. I don't know. This is others' dominance. This is not reflective of whether altcoins are going up or down. It's just reflective of how much total market cap altcoins are taking up. And we're likely to see Bitcoin steal the show for a little while, right? That's what this is suggesting. This is total 3 minus stable coins divided by Bitcoin, kind of another way to visualize others' dominance, but you're also including the top altcoins as well, so it is a little bit different. These are your altcoin valuations against Bitcoin, which have been in a bear market for a really long time. I do believe this is an accumulation phase. That's what it looks like to me. We have held this lower trend, this lower boundary line, which corresponds to these candles from early 2021, for over a year now. So the likelihood of this breaking and capitulating down, I think, is not super high. But could we come back down and touch it again and have a wick outside of it? Sure. What I'm noticing is that the Gaussian channel inflected back, in December and has been concave up and widening. And this is suggesting that, and we're also entering into that channel. I think what we're likely to see is maybe another move down followed by an impulsive move up. And there's precedent for this. Definitely precedent. Look what happened in 2021. Could happen again. So, yeah, I think that this is an accumulation range for altcoins. Get them while you still can. There was a bearish cross, I believe, or is this a bullish cross? Oh, wow, look at two very close together. A bullish cross and a bearish cross, like a month apart. You don't see that too often. So we did have a bearish cross. However, we've already had the bulk of our bearish move. I don't think there's much left in terms of a bear market for altcoins against Bitcoin. But again, this is why I say late spring at the earliest, early summer, midsummer, probably at the latest, we can see altcoins start to move more aggressively against Bitcoin. But that's probably going to be after Bitcoin's put in another all-time high and decides on a new chopping range, whether that's like 100 to 130K or 80 to 90K. I don't know, but I do think the most likely path for Bitcoin is that it will outperform altcoins first before dominance sort of like rolls over and money flows out of Bitcoin into altcoins, because smart money is basically waiting for Bitcoin to kind of have the final say. And when they feel that Bitcoin's pretty much exhausted itself, either for the entire cycle or just for a while, they're going to want to, take that money and roll it into ETH and alts. Now, some interesting observations about Bitcoin on the weekly. When you dig under the hood, we don't have bullish divergence on the weekly MACD yet. It is likely to come, as we have been printing a light pink this week, and we can see that we're about to have a cross of the average line with a signal line. So the blue line being the average line, a difference of two different moving averages, and the orange line being the signal line. And it looks like we are about to have a bullish cross. So wouldn't surprise me if we see that happen in the next week or two. Snabble RSI, well, it just went up and it's heading back up into the upper region after escaping the wrath of a head and shoulders pattern that played out, and it's entirely possible that we bottomed here at 39.37 and now we're about to head back up into the red zone again. That is possible. It's also possible that we get rejected and head back down, although I would say the odds probably favor, it's hard to say, really hard to say. I'm not going to conclude that yet. ADX and DI is kind of also very curious. The directional index has weakened a bit. It is now at around, on the weekly, 52.5-ish. Green DI did diverge, and that is bullish, right? So is this going to fatten out, or are we heading back in? That I do not know, but the chart does look quite bullish. So some promising signs on our average sentiment oscillator. We got a little bit of bullish divergence. We're also seeing a little bit of bullish divergence on the price momentum oscillator, which did turn red for a little while. We do have to get above that signal line to confirm that as bullishness, but we could certainly be putting in a lower high, which would correspond to maybe, you know, Bitcoin having some pretty nice price action over the next couple of months. I don't know. MVRV Z-score looks like it also had a little bit of bullish divergence, but notice none of this is really that dramatic yet. Although MVRV Z-score is trending in the right direction for a bull market, and it hasn't reached the super high levels. It looks like it's about halfway there, but it hasn't reached the super high levels that typically, you know, mark the end of a bull run. So things do look bullish. I would say cautiously bullish, but bullish. Now this is something I've been watching for a while, which is the Trix bubble. The Trix bubble just printed bullish divergence as well. So it's likely that we will see some follow through on this move, and that we will probably take out our all-time high and put in a new one. That seems to be a very likely scenario. There can be fake outs, right? We can come up and get rejected. This is the shorter term moving average band from the 5-week SMA all the way, I think, to the, you know, it actually says on this, let me turn it on, 5, 7, 9, 11, and 14. Okay, so yeah, it looks like we're curling back up. Usually when we do that, that prints a reversal. The wave trend is printing green again after tapping the lower boundary of this red box for the first time in quite a while. It printed red March 18th, and it just barely printed green like yesterday. So generally speaking, when you print green on this, it's going to last for a little while, unless it's one of these little periods that happen during the bear market. But you can see in the bull market, we do spend a lot of time up in this red zone. We've done it numerous times. I think we're in something kind of like this pattern from the 2016 to 2017 bull cycle. It sure feels more similar to that than 2020, 2021. So kind of, you know, spending some time up here. How much time? I have no clue. But odds are, again, bullish. Bull bear power trend is printing, you know, green histogram bars again, turned up. That's also bullish. Stochastic oscillator heading back up. That's a trigger buy, also bullish. So what are my conclusions based on my analysis in this video? Well, my conclusion is that Bitcoin looks bullish. And I would say that there's about an 80% chance that this is an actual breakout and not a fake out, and that we will. Now, I'm not saying we're not going to see pullbacks. We're going to see pullbacks, but I had my original downside target is between $45,000 and $50,000. I'm pretty sure that that red zone that I drew in previous videos, talked about on my Telegram and Twitter, I think that's going to be invalidated. I do. I think I'm going to end up just being wrong on that. I can't tell you how high Bitcoin might go on this impulsive move up. I would say it's reasonable to think somewhere around 90K. I think that 100K is going to be difficult to get through on our first attempt, and I think there'll be quite a bit of selling that happens around there if we do get near 100K. But I think, you know, somewhere between 85 to 100K is reasonable on our next impulsive move up, and I think we'll encounter some resistance. I don't think this is going to be like a 6-month run to new highs. I think it could be more like a couple months, maybe, you know. And I don't know that that we'll start it necessarily tomorrow, but I think it's going to happen fairly soon. I think there's a high probability that June ends up being a green month. And I guess May is already a green month, technically, for this price to be where it's at. So April was a red month, and, well, sometimes you only need one, right? So I think that it's more likely than not that Bitcoin's going to lead the way. It's going to lead this rally. I think dominance is going to hang on for dear life. I don't think that altcoin season is really materializing just yet. I think, in the sense that we're in an accumulation phase, some alts are starting to show strength. You could argue, in that giant green candle by Ethereum, Bitcoin, you could argue that maybe the tide is starting to turn, and it won't be obvious for a few months. Sure, I buy that. But, I said I was going to look at Chainlink, and I never did, huh? Let's quickly do that. So Chainlink looks kind of like Ethereum, right? In some sense, it went to its green Gunner EMA. Gaussian is green, which is great. Has this awful M shape. So yeah, it's resistance right now, this green Gunner EMA. We had a bearish cross on March 11th. And our last bullish cross before that was October. So I don't know. I think it's possible we head back down to this red zone. I got really excited in my Telegram thinking this was the beginning of a bullish move. I'm not so sure about that anymore. I'm not really so sure. Seeing the Gunners widen like this, it does make me think maybe we have a little bit more time to chop around or have a little bit of downside. So I don't think that altcoin season is really here yet, although I think we can accumulate at these levels and feel pretty confident about that accumulation. So that's how I feel about altcoin season. Still think the real bulk of the moves will probably come in the summer. And I don't necessarily know if it will be the massive altcoin season that, is like the cycle ending altcoin season. Let's see what happens with Bitcoin first. We'll take a look at if Bitcoin decides to go on a run. We'll start pulling out the Pi cycle top, coin value days destroyed, other kinds of hash ribbons, other kinds of indicators to see how likely it is Bitcoin is approaching a top. But I don't think we're anywhere near a top, to be honest with you. And the reason for that is if I pull up this risk, this is a new thing you've never seen before, but this is my Bitcoin risk indicator. We actually moved up to 53.19 today, which is an impressive move, but that's like halfway to what would be considered 90 risk, where you'd want to be kind of thinking about taking profits out in an aggressive way. Would be about 134K. 100 risk, which is like the absolute highest this model could see Bitcoin going, is around 160K. So if we're going to get over $200,000 or even be able to do that, we've got to start to get into like next year, right? So we need the bull cycle to last that long. And it very well may, right? It is a presidential election year, so we do have to be a little bit wary of that. Once the election is done, sometimes that provides a headwind for the markets. Doesn't always provide a tailwind. The election season that we're in right now usually provides a tailwind. So it would not be unreasonable at all for Bitcoin to continue showing strength into the end of the year. In fact, that's kind of my base expectation for now. For those of you who are championing a left translated cycle, including myself, I've put out theories about that, videos on it, because at the time it just made sense. That theory is starting to make less sense. So I am not married to that idea at all. I am pretty confident that the left translated cycle idea will probably end up being proven wrong. Totally fine with that too. Better for my portfolio, better for yours too. So those are my market thoughts for today, and I hope you enjoyed them. If you enjoyed the content, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my content. And also leave some comments if you have any questions about anything I've covered today. And I would love to have you as a guest in our Telegram group, the Snack Pit. We have hundreds of people there, just like you, who are curious about the market and want a technical analysis, unbiased view of what's going on. And that's what we do at the Snack Pit, and we do it completely free. So enjoy the company there. Thank you for joining me in the crypto simulation. I am the Gaussian Snick. Again, nothing is to be considered financial advice in this video. Always do your own research, form your own conclusions, and I will see you again next time.